see Council Lady Blaylock here, Councilman Larry Hager here. Appreciate y'all being with us. We get through with the announcements. If you'd like to speak prior to we get to your item, we'll be glad for you to do that. But let me have your attention, give you the announcements here prior to the meeting. If you're not satisfied with the decision made by Traffic and Parking Commission, you may appeal the decision by filing a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure your appeal is filed in a timely manner and all procedural requirements have been met. Do we have a motion on today's agenda? Have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Approval of the minutes from the July 11th meeting 2016. Do I have a motion?
I move. Second.
Have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Approval on the items on the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless a member of the audience or the commission requests that the items be removed from the consent agenda. Rules on the public hearing. Keep comments to 3 minutes or less. Each person representing will be expected to offer new information that has not been made previously. Once the public hearing has been closed, no additional comments will be heard unless the hearing is officially reopened. If there's no objection, since we have Council Lady Blaylock here, would you like to speak, Council Lady?
Thank you, and thank you for your service. I just wanted to say that I've had a lot of meetings on the traffic light for Brewer and Nolensville Road, and it is on consent agenda. I just want to let you know we've had numerous meetings over the last few years, so just want to say that the community is in support. There's a few families that are concerned that they may not be able to get out onto the street once the light is in, and so I promised them we would do a study afterwards and potentially put a stop sign at that location. So it is definitely in our district's best interest. So thank you very much.
Okay, Council Lady, that one on the consent agenda, was that item number G?
I believe so. So,
It is G, correct.
yes.
Nolensville and Brewer.
Yes.
G.
It's G?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. There's no objection since Councilman Larry Hager is here. We'll jump on down to the old business. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the Vice Chair. I'm going to recuse myself from this one, Councilman Hager. And Vice Chair John Green.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Vice Chair. We were here the last time, I believe, about the Swinging Bridge Road, and there's a proposed mineral extraction plant in this area, and we talked about the traffic in this particular road. Since that time, I went out, and I know there was discussion about the width of this road and some discussion about how it was going to be addressed. And at one time, can I pass these around? I have a set of pictures here. And the top, I'll wait till everybody can see one of them. They're broken down into different ones. There's about 6 sets.
Okay.
I switched them around. I think there's been a proposal for this particular company to widen this road and make it more compliant with TDOT standards and state standards. This particular road is Swinging Bridge Road, and it goes down and meets Burnett Road where the proposed mineral extraction plant is. When this began, they did a traffic study out there through Collier, and they found that there was probably about 30 trucks that went down this road on a daily basis. And the mineral extraction plant that's proposed in that area, they indicate about 110 loads per day. but based on the air permit that they're asking for, it's about 800 to 850,000 tons per year that they want to extract from this area. Once you take that and divide that up and the amount that these trucks carry, which is about 20 tons, you come up with about 175 to 200 loads in and out of there a day. Swinging Bridge Road is an old county road. The history behind it is that was a county road years ago that went across the river to Hendersonville at Masker's Creek. This road has never been upgraded, and if you see by the pictures of what I have there, the whole road width is anywhere from 18 feet to 6 inches to 18 feet 8 inches in the area from Inslee up to the railroad tracks. They are proposing to widen the road from Inslee down to Burnett Road. The problem is, unless that area is widened up there to the railroad tracks, that particular road would be the route they take and go out on Industrial Boulevard, which eventually feeds in to Old Hickory Boulevard. The problem is when you have the width of a truck, which is about 8 feet 6 inches, then you get almost 17 feet and you've got a road there that's not even 19 feet wide, not counting the double yellow lines and the fog line, which you can tell in those pictures you don't even see a fog line. So once you take that out of the equation, there's no room for error on this particular road. Sorry about that. It's for safety purposes and the purpose of this particular road, it's got to be widened and it's got to be repaired. Right now, based on the studies that I've seen, there's about 3 inches of asphalt. Pursuant to the standards, it ought to be it should be at least 7 inches thickness to carry the type of weight. Normally, these type of trucks are going to carry between 74,000 to 80,000 pounds. 80,000 pounds is the limit in Tennessee, so we're talking about 40 tons altogether. And what I'm asking this commission to do is put a weight restriction on this particular road all the way up to the railroad tracks right before you get up to, if y'all have got a picture of that in front of.
Corby, go to the one where, there you go. That's fine.
You know where we're at, Chip? Okay. There. Where those railroad tracks are right there, as you can tell, it starts to widen out past that, which is the east of Burnett Road. From there all the way down to Burnett Road, for the purposes of the TDOT standards and also safety of the residents that live back there and for the road itself, that needs to be widened and the thickness rectified to carry the type of weight that they're talking about here.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate it. I think what we'll do is see if we have is there anyone else came with you, Councilman, who?
No, because I figured the last time we had a public hearing, and I believe I introduced a picture showing one of the trucks the last time I introduced that was going down in that area that I'm talking about, and that particular truck was over the yellow line because of the width. So when you talk about 8 foot 6 inches wide, and you add those two up, you're at 17 feet, and you got a road altogether that's 18 feet 6 inches to 18 feet 8 or 9 inches. Okay. There's not any room for error.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Macy, I understand that you have had some conversations concerning this road. There was a document that was emailed to the commission on Friday.
Yes, sir. The applicant proposed to make road improvements to Burnett Road and Swinging Bridge Road. I want to point out that The applicant has secured all of his permits to operate this quarry. We have at Public Works, we have a condition on making sure that the road is safe and built to standards. And so our engineers and the applicant's engineers went out, did core borings on this road, did measurements, got all the facts together. We pulled accident records. The applicant has proposed to make roadway improvements, thickness and width on Burnett Road in front of his property for 500 and some feet. The applicant's agreed to bond Burnett Road from his driveway to Swinging Bridge Road in the case that the road is damaged, we have a bond to make the repairs, or he can make the repairs. And then the applicant has agreed to make roadway improvements of Swinging Bridge Road, which includes widening the road for 2 11-foot paved lanes and 2-foot shoulders on each side from Burnett Road to Inslee Road. This also includes placing structural pavement of 3 1/4 inches thick on top of the road to help carry the loads. And so when we look at these cases, it doesn't matter whether we like the use or not. We look at the project objectively, and in our opinion, this was a very reasonable offer by the applicant to make these road improvements. There are other trucks that use this road, and the other uses down this road were never asked to do anything. Don't know why, but doesn't mean that going forward we shouldn't do the right thing and have this applicant step up and do his share of the work. So they made what I consider a very reasonable proposal to the government, and we agree with what their proposal recommends. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Commissioners, anyone has questions for Mr. Macy?
Have there been any accidents or crashes reported here previously with the 30 trucks a day that are currently using the road?
Well, we pulled the accident records for 10 years at the section of road from Inslee down to the railroad tracks, and there were 2 accidents that were unrelated to Swinging Bridge Road. But we looked for truck accidents where there might have been a squeeze or somebody pushed off the road, and we didn't find any reported accidents. Doesn't mean that there hasn't been an accident that wasn't reported, okay? But as far as reported accidents, we didn't find any.
Any other commissioners with questions? Legal counsel, let me ask you a question. What authority does the commission have concerning weight restrictions?
So under Chapter 1236 of the Metropolitan Code, you can place weight restrictions. I would recommend that you do that based on the facts before you, including evidence from the engineering expertise that y'all receive from the staff and their consultants. You can also consider, of course, the evidence that the witnesses who come before you and testify provide. Basically, there are a couple of different types of restrictions. There are restrictions that focus on gross weight, period. And then there are restrictions that also look at other aspects of truck travel that may be a public safety issue, such as turning radiuses, that kind of thing. And that's a slightly different type of restriction. There are some exceptions in some cases for certain local traffic. So.
Yes.
Councilman, what weight restriction are you requesting? Can you be a little bit more specific?
What I'm asking for right now is probably about a 25-ton limit for the time being. except for deliveries. And that's kind of what I did with the one on the consent agenda with the post office. That's a 10-ton limit, which is 20,000 pounds. Talked to the post office about that. If, like was said before, if these repairs and these items are done on this particular road, then the weight restrictions might go away. But until they're done. And I want to say this, I hear about safety all the time, and one thing I want to be very clear about, I'm trying to be proactive for my community, and I think this is being proactive instead of reactive with the type of traffic that's going to be going back there. We can look at history all we want to, but we hadn't ever experienced the type of traffic that this particular operation is going to produce back there. So I understand completely and I don't have a problem with what Mr. Macy said about if they do these 11-foot lanes and the 2-foot or 3-foot shoulders, but it's got to go all the way up to them railroad tracks. It has to. And I'm just trying to be proactive for my community before somebody gets killed out there.
Corbin, can you come out? I think we all need to see what they're proposing versus what the councilman is asking for. Can you come out a little bit and Chip help us to see that?
Well, see just to the top of the screen, Burnett Road. Up Burnett to the north is the property we're talking about. So the route, Corby, go back to the slide where you had the blue lines. Yeah. So give or take the length, but up Burnett is the site itself where we have it outlined. And then the restaurant and the railroad tracks, I can't see that well, but right about in the middle, right there where his cursor is where we and Mark have proposed that we need improvements from Inslee. Where's Inslee on this?
It's about 300 feet west.
So just west. Go back to the Google map, Corby. So you see Inslee right there where the pointer is. Councilman's saying we need to extend it another few hundred feet to the southeast to where the railroad tracks cross.
And the applicant is saying.
In your packet, there's a letter from Weiser Consultants, and it kind of pretty much lays out what they have offered and what we desired, and it is signed by a rep from Weiser and Mr. Macy. So now, at this point, we're talking about two things, I believe. We're talking about when and if the improvements are going to be done, and if they meet the request of the councilman as far as length. So we're getting there. We're getting closer. We just got to figure out these details on if you want to take it to the railroad tracks versus not, and do you put up the restriction now, or do you get these improvements done now? That kind of thing we still need to iron out. Now, Metro Legal, we need to clarify what accept deliveries means. We've always gone in circles about this topic. Some people say accept deliveries does not keep you from doing business at your place, So the weight restriction would be kind of a placebo, even though they could still do business, right?
Chip, the way it is worded very broadly, so that is definitely a possible reading of it. I did look to see if I could find any legislative history on that issue, because that might really end up being kind of an exception that swallows the rule. And most people reading it kind of think that the intention was for like FedEx trucks on residential streets or something like that. However, I could find no legislative history establishing that. So the broad language of the exception may be inconsistent with what appears to be the spirit of it. So it is a little ambiguous. I would agree with you there. Could I make one additional clarification, which is, the Vice Chair was asking me kind of what this commission's authority is. And, the commission has the authority to place the weight restrictions. It doesn't have the authority to order the improvement of the roads.
100% correct. So any negotiations that we're doing with the developer, with the councilman, with the neighbors, it really doesn't fall under the jurisdiction of the commission. That kind of detail doesn't. Whether we put in a truck restriction or a speed limit or whatever that is, you guys. So today we're here to listen to the case of whether we put a weight restriction of 25 tons from the railroad tracks to Burnett.
So Chip and Councilman, let's just say hypothetically, we go with the weight restrictions. And if the letter of the law is saying that it appears to be ambiguous, then hypothetically, if I'm delivering to the site, the business still goes on. That's the way I'm interpreting what you're saying.
That's correct, yeah. You can't, unless there's a true weight restriction for safety reasons, such as a bridge about to fall down or the road collapsing, businesses are allowed, of course, to conduct business. Now, if there was a bridge or something that truly had a weight restriction on it, then we'd have to be, litigating on how to buy out that business. You can't just shut off access to a piece of property.
Okay, and this is, I guess, is a legal question, and yeah, I think I'm gonna need this answer because last time we were told that there is law out there that if we put a restriction in that prohibits the commerce of this particular site, then we're wrong. That's how we could explain to us the last time, that if we impose a restriction that prohibits the commerce of this particular site, this company, then the commission is wrong.
Well, and I'm no expert as far as legalities and interpretation of laws, but that's the way I would understand it, yes. And that's why they have to accept delivery plates on there. You have restrictions, but you still have to be able to get your UPS or FedEx or rocks or whatever it is.
And that's what I'm saying to the councilman. I'm just worried about if we say except for deliveries. Yeah.
Well,
the law doesn't say
if you can take the deliveries out, but deliveries were intended for people delivering things of heavier weight than what's intended, just like they were talking about. This does go into a residential neighborhood. Matter of fact, when you go to Swing and Bridge Road, right there at Burnett Road, there's already a sign there that's been there for years that says no trucks over 5,000 pounds except deliveries. So there is already a weight restriction on Swing and Bridge Road right when you go past Burnett Road. I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but it's already there. Under the state law, as legal counsel has indicated, we do have a right to litigate weight restrictions on our roads if it has a bearing to the condition and that the roads are not in a position to take care of these type of weights. And I do know that for a fact, that because I've read the statute myself, I know what it says. So the local commission was granted this power by the state legislature to regulate weights on these roads. And as I've said, even their study with Collier indicates that this road does not meet TDOT standards for the type of weight, volume, and everything else that they're trying to put, developers are trying to put back there. So we discussed this at the last meeting, if they did these improvements, would the weight restrictions go away? That's what was asked. And I think, as I recall, the answer was, Chip, you can correct me, yeah, the weight restrictions would go away. As I understand it, legal's here today to explain that we can put weight restrictions on there as long as it has a legitimate reasoning behind it, because it's for the protection of these roads that we as taxpayers have to pay for.
I would basically agree with that, but just in response to your question, I would say that this commission has an obligation not to act in an arbitrary and capricious manner. That's why I was emphasizing that you have to have evidence to support your decision.
In an effort to get all the facts, I know Mr. White would like to speak. So Mr. White, if you could come forward and present your client's side of the story, please.
Chairman, thank you. At the outset, I'd like to hand out these copies. There's 10 of these, and ask the indulgence that I'll take 3 minutes max, and there's the traffic engineer for my client who's here will also take 3 minutes. Basically, I'll remind the commission we were here at the last meeting. And the general commitment was that this was an engineering matter. We didn't need to have the lawyers and the legal arguments. The principal issue was get the engineers involved to see if they could figure out what was a reasonable resolution. What has taken place is that for 14 months, my client's traffic engineers, Metro's consultant, and the Metro Public Works Department have been working together to figure out what would be the appropriate road suggestion that should be done here. That's been agreed to, and a document's been signed by Mr. Macy for the Public Works Department and by my client that we agreed to do certain improvements, which are articulated in the report. It's of note that, as was mentioned earlier by the staff, there's 5 businesses out there right now that have trucks in excess of this proposed limit that's being discussed here. You can't come in the middle of the night and say, we're going to put a limit on it that puts people out of business already operating out there. And none of these other uses were obligated to contribute anything towards the roads, and they didn't. My client has made a very significant, as you heard Mr. Macy say, more than a reasonable proposal, which has been accepted. And so I go back to our conversation a month ago, which was, let's get the engineers involved. That's what we ought to do before we do anything. That's what took place. After 14 months, the engineers, Metro's consultant, my client, they agreed on the improvements which are there. Secondly, I'll mention the fact that, as commented, the suggestion for the weight limit at the 25-ton clearly puts all these businesses out of business. Nobody's going to dispute that. Nobody can come to this mic and identify the other 5 businesses and my client and say anything other than it shuts them down. All these other businesses are active. We're already out there, as Mr. Macy said, with every permit that we need. So in my opinion, legally, you cannot do that. And my comment to you is that I believe a correct statement of the law is that if there's been an agreement reached as to what's to be done on the roads out there, then the weight limit issue is off the table, because weight limits are taken into account when you come with the proposal for the road improvements, which are agreed to here. Secondly, what is the evidence that a 25-ton limit is appropriate? There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing before you. It's the exact opposite. You've got all the engineers saying these proposals are good. So your legal counsel said arbitrary and capricious. When you come up with a number like 25 tons with absolutely no factual basis whatsoever, it clearly is unlawful, it's arbitrary, it's capricious. There's no foundation for it, as opposed to all the engineers that have looked at this and agreed to the proposal. So I appreciate your courtesies today. Sam Parnell is here. I've handed to the commission 10 copies of a report that I want made part of this record, which contain the references to all the improvements that we're doing and that they've been agreed to by Metro government after 14 months of work. So I'm urging you to basically don't put any weight restrictions on there today, and as your legal counsel has said, you don't take a vote on what Metro's agreed to. That's the province of the Public Works Department, who are charged with the responsibility of doing the right thing here. They've done that. Thank you for your courtesies.
Thank you, Mr. White. Mr. Parnell, please. And state your name and your address for the record, please.
Vice Chair Green and Commission members, my name is Sam Parnell. I'm a traffic engineer with Wiser Consultants, 1427 Kensington Square Court, Murfreesboro 37130. The permitting effort for this project has been extensive, and it has gone on for 14 months. During 2015, we had 3 meetings with Metro staff, the first on May 20th. We completed the traffic impact study. Metro commissioned the Terracon study to assess pavement conditions on Burnett Road and wrote a letter of response concerning the traffic study. During 2016, we had 3 meetings. We wrote 4 letters to Metro, and Metro responded to all those letters. Metro commissioned the Collier study to assess the pavement conditions on Swinging Bridge and Burnett Road, and a site visit was made by Collier and Wiser engineers. We've now reached this agreement as to the required roadway improvements, and the agreement is dated July 29, 2016, and a copy is attached to those remarks that have been provided to you. Also in that packet, next to last page is an aerial photograph, which is also on the big screen behind you. Access to the site is by Swinging Bridge Road and Burnett Road. As has been mentioned, we've identified at least 5 existing businesses along Swinging Bridge and Burnett Road that are served by trucks. The businesses are Sonterra, Osborne Hesse Logistics, 3M Company, Superior Oil, and Odessa. Approximately 50 tractor trailer and dump trucks already use this route on a daily basis. A next-door neighbor to the industrial site is the Odessa Auto Resale Facility. The truck weight and width limits for Odessa are limited to 80,000 pounds and 102 inches, which is the weight and width cap in the Code of Federal Regulations. It's my understanding when the Odessa development was permitted, there were no road improvement requirements as a part of the permit. However, the Metro-approved roadway improvements for the industrial site include roadway widening on Swinging Bridge, widening and construction of a left turn lane on Burnett at the site driveway, and a bond so that in the event Burnett Road pavement fails due to industrial site truck traffic, industrial will repair the road, and if they do not, Metro can use the bond to have the road repaired at no cost to Metro taxpayers. The improvements are certainly more than other land users on Swinging Bridge and Burnett Road have been required to do. It is my opinion that the agreed-upon improvements are more than adequate to provide for the safe and efficient movement of truck traffic on both roadways. Recent traffic counts on Swinging Bridge and Burnett Road are approximately 1,800 and 1,000 vehicles per day. The quarry, with all accessory uses, including asphalt plant, concrete plant, and block plant, is expected to generate less than 400 vehicles per day. Two-lane roads like Swinging Bridge and Burnett Road are capable of accommodating these low traffic volumes with little motorist delay.
All right.
In closing, from a human factors standpoint, most drivers tend to drive at speeds they feel they can safely negotiate the roadway. National studies have shown that wider lanes tend to result in increased speeds and higher crash rates in urban areas. Swinging Bridge and Burnett Road have straight alignments along the truck route.
All right. Mr.
There are
Parnell?
no issues with the truck wheel and track encroachment. Both roads are flat, so sight distance is good.
All right.
Swinging Bridge and Burnett
Thank you
Road
for
are
your
safe
comments,
roadways
Mr. Parnell.
and will continue to
Okay.
operate safely.
Commissioners, do y'all have any questions for either Mr. White or Mr. Parnell?
Well, let me ask this question now. This is getting longer and longer. We've been at this a long time. How has the other business been given proper notification of the proposed weight restriction? Let's say we go in, has Sonterra and Osborne Hesse Logistics and 3M Company. Have they been notified how this will affect their business, not just the site that's being developed?
Sonterra, that warehouse where you're talking about Osborne Hesse, that particular warehouse belongs to a group of investors. The only people using that warehouse now is Sonterra. So when he says there's 5 businesses, that's not true. You have, when you talk about Sonterra, they are leasing that to these individuals. Osborne Hesse doesn't own that building anymore. Superior, I tried to talk to them about it. They do deliveries heavy, but then they deliver out in smaller loads. Odessa, at this point in time, most of their cars are being driven in, and they're coming on smaller trucks when they bring them into Odessa. 3M, they get some of their things by the railroad track. I have not talked to them yet, but their driveway is right past those railroad tracks on the right before you get to Inslee.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. Did he answer your question? Are there,
I'd like to add to the weight question. I'd like to add testimony to that.
sorry, are you for or against?
I'm in support of what Mr. Councilmember Hager is saying, and
Please identify yourself and
yes,
limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
no problem. My name is Margot Chambers, and I live at 3803 Princeton Avenue in Nashville. And I wanted to remind the commission that the Metro government does not have an updated major and collector street plan, and that causes all traffic studies to return results indicating no or little impact. And the Major and Collector Street Plan relies on land use from prior to Nashville Next. So all the traffic study information you heard has density that's less than what is zoned today. And the Major and Collector Street Plan is adopted to address future growth, which is what we're talking about here. So it's also, the Major and Collector Street Plan is also what the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, gives to the Federal Highway Department, so TDOT gets enough money back for road projects. So it's really important to have an updated major. Sorry about that. If the Metro allows more road use without having an updated Major and Collector Street Plan to begin their traffic studies, it can return inaccurate crash results and raise air pollution. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to declare the public hearing closed. Commission members?
Can I ask one final question? Yes. With the improvements that are proposed and submitted to Public Works, it says it's 120 days of approval. Would that be meaning is pretty much 120 days from now, or what sort of time frame are we looking at for when the improvements would be undertaken and completed?
It's my understanding it'd be within the next 120 days, 4 months.
And that's when they'd start, or when they'd
finish.
They'd be finished.
So any
Go
weight
ahead.
restrictions would be for the next 4 months, just to follow up on that. That is the only time frame. So all the road improvements would be completed in the next 4 months then?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Seems quick.
Yeah. And I think I'm still at my question that this hasn't been answered is if we impose the restrictions, are you saying with you leave deliveries out, or we putting deliveries on? And if we put deliveries out, then my question is going to back to the question I just asked. I mean, I don't know these companies over there, but it's a simple yes or no for me. Have they been, I don't know what they're operating. I'm just saying, have they been notified of this proposal? I think it's not on us what type commerce they run out of there. I think just as we do in a residential situation, if we're changing parking, the speed limit, or putting stop signs, it's the same question for me across the board. Has those in the community who would be affected by this, I think we all ask that question, have they been notified? Have they, regarding this change? I don't see it different from whether this is a site or whether this is residential. I don't think we have the liberty to pick and choose, because normally in this commission, we want to hear what the constituents in that particular area are saying. So again, I'm asking the same question, yes or no, regardless of how Odessa gets the cars here or how 3M ships in and ships out. I think my question is yes or no. Have they been identified if we impose this? Have they been contacted to let them know this proposal is going to come? And then now I'm back to a legal issue. If they haven't, now they're back here next month after us again, and we're back. It's been a snowball. And so if we impose this for those that are new, these haven't been notified. What's going to happen is now each company is going to come back. And by the time they, appeal this decision, we're going to have 120 days, hopefully, that the road is done. It's no quick fix here, but I've been on this commission a long time, and this has occupied our agenda for quite some time now. So, Chip, help me out. I mean, my question is very simple. Has the businesses around there, I would ask the neighbors, if you want a stop sign on the corner, has the house on the corner been asked about the stop sign?
I don't know of anybody on our staff who has contacted any of the other businesses. So unless the council member has contacted them, and he can answer yes or no, but I'm assuming they have not been contacted, unless somebody can tell us they have.
I would just add to that, and this doesn't answer the question that I think you're really answering, but just from a technically legal point of view, for public meeting, open meetings, compliance purposes, then the notice that's published is considered sufficient. But I don't think that practically answers your question. I was also going to volunteer to just read to you all the code provisions that have been discussed as having some ambiguity so that you could decide for yourselves. The first two are about your ability to place the restrictions. It's 1236-090A and C. I'll read A first. The Traffic and Parking Commission may by resolution prohibit the operation of vehicles upon any highway, any such highway, or impose restrictions as to the gross weight of vehicles to be operated upon any such highway. And then C says, the Traffic and Parking Commission may also by resolution prohibit the operation of trucks or other commercial vehicles, or may impose limitations as to the weight or size thereof on certain highways designated by appropriate signs placed on such highways. Then the exception language is in 1236-110A. When signs are erected giving notice thereof, no person shall operate any vehicle with a gross weight in excess of the amount specified at any time upon any of the streets or parts of streets described in Schedule 9, attached to and made part of this regulation. And I think when streets are given weight restrictions, they are placed on that Schedule 9. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, you're correct.
Then, except that such vehicles may be operated thereon to actively deliver or pick up materials or merchandise, and then only by entering such street at the intersection nearest the destination of the vehicle and proceeding thereon no further than the nearest intersection thereafter.
Okay, legal, we're back at this again. So that little line you just led is the problem. That except delivering materials. And how do you define that? I mean, now we're back to, we put the weight restriction on there, they're delivering their material.
I did research the legislative history of that section. I went all the way back to like 1962. I did not find anything clarifying that.
I don't know what to do.
Does staff have a recommendation?
Because I guess in an effort to kind of wrap this up, we either need to make a motion, or is there any action by the commission if...
You can take no action. That would be an option available to you.
Okay.
I mean, that's the gist of it. We've asked the applicant for certain things, and they said, okay, here you go. And it satisfied our director to the point where he agreed to it and signed the letter. And if all that is in place, what else do we do as a department? We've asked for this, and you've given us this, and if those are all in place, we don't have a technical reason to prohibit trucks on that road. And that's what this board is for, finding reasons. Well, that's what we're here for. But you're here to look at the technical components and the safety components of this legislation, and after a while, you run out of reasons to turn it down. I mean, I understand that certain people don't want certain things in their neighborhood, but we have to have blinders on as engineers that the road meets our specs, and the operations after that are up to somebody else.
All right. Is there a motion relating to weight restrictions? Seeing no motion, consider this issue closed at the meeting.
Well, what does that mean?
Legal.
I mean, if the commission takes no action, then the status quo will remain in place. The roads will not be limited in terms of the weights they can bear.
And it sounds like we have a gentleman's agreement for 120 days for some action to take place of some kind. And if things don't work the way the councilman wants today, I assume in 120 days you'll be right back in this door trying to get something done. So we're not trying to make a decision today that's forever in place and can't be changed.
I think I'm speaking like Mary on this one. So in 120 days, we can, or if they want to come back before then and say, hey, if the councilman comes back and says, we've contacted everyone, here's where we are. That's the only concern I have hanging out there, just, to wake up in the morning. And now I think he added like some more with this sign that's already out there that we didn't know about. So Yeah, I'm clear now.
Yeah, there's a truck restriction out there after you get to Burnout Road. And I don't want to complicate things, but yeah, it's an accept deliveries situation that you see on residential streets everywhere. It's not about excessive tons. It's a 8-ton sign, I think. It's a small one. The truck prohibition is 5,000 pounds, so it's very small. It's not to the degree we're talking here.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, you can resume the meeting.
All right, items on the consent agenda. Resolution number 08-16, authorized stop on Manley Drive and Landon Drive. B, authorized stop on Corvell Avenue and Southgate Avenue. C, authorized stop on Albar Drive and Todd Priss Drive. D, authorized stop sign on East Longdale Drive at Walford Drive. E, authorized stop on Lachlan and Ordway Place. F, authorized stop on Crestland Drive at College Lane. That's a change in records only. G, authorized traffic signal at Nolensville Road and Brewer Drive. H, authorized traffic signal on Nolensville Road at Pettus Road. I, authorized no trucks over 10 tons on Hadley Avenue from 12th Avenue Street to Donaldson Avenue. J, authorized no trucks over 10 tons on Donaldson Avenue to 509 Old Hickory Boulevard. K, authorized 50-foot loading zone on the east side of Magazine Street 24/7. I, authorize no left turn on First Avenue from Korean Veterans Boulevard 4 p.m. through 6 p.m. M, remove valet stand at 1121 Fifth Avenue North. N, modify yield sign to stop sign at a T intersection on Netherlands Drive at Dutchman's Drive. O, I think you want to discuss that, didn't you, Mary? All right, P, modify speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour at McChesley Avenue between Galton Pike and Kennedy Avenue. Q, modify speed limit from 30 to 25 miles per hour on Howard Avenue between Galton Pike and Kennedy Avenue. All right, let's take all of those except...
I need to clarify J, please, or L, whatever that letter is after K. L.
L or J?
L, sorry, L. It's an eastbound left turn prohibition, not to be confused with westbound, which is very heavy in the evenings. We need to keep
L.
that one.
Okay. All right, I make a motion to modify the consent agenda by removing item L and O.
Or not removing L, just.
It's, oh, we're clarifying L?
Just clarifying L.
Just clarify.
Okay.
And removing O.
All right, have a first, second?
Second?
Have a first and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, let's take all of, you want to discuss yours first, Mary? Okay, then we can take them all at one time. This is on O, modify speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 10 miles per hour on Kennedy Avenue between Greenfield Avenue and McChesley Avenue. Mary?
Well, I just wanted to get clarification on staff about that change. I understand that it's treated almost as an alley because of that narrow width. So, Chip, Mr. Knopf, if you would mind just giving us some background on that issue.
You're exactly right. It's very narrow. Amy, you could come speak if you want. Amy did the study, so based on a meeting she had with the neighbors, and they have a few requests, and so she investigated it and came up with this recommendation. Well, she recommended 15, I believe, and then when we started researching that it has the characteristics of an alley, and the alley speed limits are by code 10, we just lowered it to 10. It's just it's a road that looks like an alley. It operates like an alley. People do speed in it, but it's very narrow. Go ahead, Amy. I didn't mean to.
That's okay. I don't have a lot more to add. We did make that recommendation based on the narrowness of the road, the lack of sidewalks, lack of shoulders. The width is about 15 feet, and so that's supposed to serve two-way traffic. And then if it were to be approved, some additional signage would be in place, warning for reduced speeds. And the neighborhood is also requesting some speed pavement markings, so there would be additional warning of the reduction in the speed.
Corby, it's the section that does not have a double yellow, so turn around, it's behind you.
Right, so it's about a
ahead.
2-block section, and it goes between Greenfield Avenue to the south.
Right in there's where it
Yeah,
starts.
we're getting, right, so it serves homes on both sides. It's signed no parking on both sides of the street. And because there's no parking, there's little friction. The volumes are relatively low, but you do meet a car from time to time in there. I would think. And then, but because it's 15 feet, they drive in the middle of the road, and so then they feel no constraint, and they're driving a little faster.
So it's almost, one-way situation, or it certainly yields somebody's pulling over to the side then when you pass. Well, I was just curious about, lowering this restriction, which, certainly it needs to be a low-speed road, but kind of the bigger picture with this. So is this pushing then traffic to other roads? Or, does this road need to be widened in the future? Is there a bigger conversation that needs to be had on this road?
Well, anytime you create a little friction for the driver, they sometimes divert to other roadways. That's what we always preach about, stop signs that aren't warranted and that kind of thing. So I talked to Amy about diversion, and if the traffic's going to go to another road. What was your volume? It's pretty low.
Excuse me, it's low. We're talking about peak hour traffic, so in the morning, and then in the evening between 40 and 75 cars, depending on that hour, and then
So,
daily traffic's
It
just under
might
700.
send a handful of people to another road. That would probably be okay with the people that live on that road. So, yeah, we always consider diversion traffic. But at the same time, when a road's this narrow, first thing we can start with is the low-hanging fruit and get the speed lowered, and then we start thinking about widening and access and diversion. If they are spilling over into other streets, we might have to address that too. But for right now, there is a concern about speeding in this quote-unquote alley, and that's all we were trying to address right now.
So that larger conversation is going on with the neighborhood?
Yeah, and the councilman's involved. We've talked to the councilman, and there's ongoing conversation, but this was just an easy, quick addressing of the speeds going down the alley.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any more questions? All right, on the consent agenda, this will be a hand vote. A through Q, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? None? Thank you. New business,
Do we need to, since we removed O, vote on that separately?
Yes.
okay, all right.
You need to make a motion.
I'd
Yeah.
like to make a motion to approve the modified speed limit from 30 to 10 on Kennedy Avenue between Greenfield Avenue and McChesney Avenue.
Okay, have a first and a second.
Just cover our bases. You want to see if anyone wants to speak on this?
Yeah, is anyone in favor want to speak? No. Hey, you're ahead of the game right now, so the best thing to do is not say anything. Yeah. All right. All in favor, say, raise your right hand. Opposed? None. Thank you. All right, new business.
Thank y'all for coming.
Yeah, we got to take them all, the rest of them.
New business.
New business,
Go ahead, you go.
item 1 and 2 are basically at the same location. There are 4 spaces on 2nd Avenue South that are currently signed as a taxi stand. Staff recommendation is to convert it to a trolley stop from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. and a taxi stand from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m.
So, for clarification, the agenda, legal, do we need to make a motion to change the agenda itself? We were going to go with 8 a.m., not 3 a.m. for the taxi stand.
As long as the motion that they pass includes the 8 a.m. time, then that'll
Okay.
be sufficient.
This is right beside Rock Bottom Brewery. There's a letter in your packet from Rock Bottom saying that they're okay with this, and you know what we're talking about. We're talking about the double-decker trolleys on Broadway, and they're around, and we're trying to all get along, and if Rock Bottom's okay with it, and we're okay with it, and the Taxi Licensing Commission is okay with it, we want to give it a try. It's a good spot for them.
So that'll be year-round though, right? They don't really use it year-round?
Well,
Or-
you talking the taxis or the trolleys?
The trolleys.
The trolley company is here. I don't know how to answer their scheduling year-round. I can't answer how they schedule when it's dead of winter and all that stuff.
Does that make a difference? I mean, those spots will be empty if they're not using it during the winter months?
Sean, you want to answer the question of scheduling and how your seasons?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Sean Henry, 315 Dedrick Street. I represent Old Town Trolley, and Steve Burris is here. He's the Director of Operations for the Nashville operation. You know, Old Town Trolley's operating in 7 cities throughout the country, and they've now been in Nashville for about 4 months. And so they operate year-round, and this location would be very helpful to their circulation pattern and actually taking some pressure off of Broadway. So we've been working real hard with staff. Staff's been very cooperative in trying to figure out how we can accommodate these larger trolleys and where they can be placed without creating a hindrance downtown. And this seems like the perfect spot where it's really going to be a mixture of use. We've got taxis being able to use it as well as the trolleys being able to use it in offsetting times. So we ask for your support.
I have a question. Is this going to be limited strictly to Old Town Trolley, or is it going to be available for Gray Line? And are there any other trolley tour companies here?
It will be signed as trolley stop, so therefore it will not be designated for old-time trolley only.
So how many trolleys could pull up there at one time?
There are 4 parking spaces there at this time, approximately 100 to 125 feet. So I'm going to say approximately 2 trolleys.
And how many trolleys does Old Time Trolley operate?
Give us your name, sir.
Okay. My name's Steve Burris. I'm the general manager for Old Town Trolley Tours, operating at 201 Broadway, Nashville, 37201. We currently have 10 vehicles in our fleet. 5 of them are the stadium trolleys, which are the taller vehicles, and 5 of those are what we call enterprise trolleys, so they're a bit smaller.
Do you know how many trolleys your competitor has?
My understanding right now is that they have 8 smaller vehicles and 2 of their double-decker open-air vehicles.
My concern is that this is a real busy corner. I mean, it's, and I understand the need to move the trolleys out from in front of some of the retail operations that are complaining about this. I would like for us, if we do this, to do this on a temporary basis, on a trial basis, if that's possible. I don't know if that's something that we can do or not, but to see how this is going to work. Because you all own the corner where the parking lot is.
Yes, ma'am.
That could actually be used by your operation to turn in there and load and unload people in the parking lot. Is that correct?
With measurements that I have taken based on the size of the vehicle and where the curb cuts are, that would not be possible.
That would not be possible.
Where is the trolley currently loading and unloading instead of this spot?
In front of the 201 Broadway parking lot. It is a loading zone, I believe, is how it's classified right now.
And so the advantage for the others, I guess, why switch it up?
Well, there were some business owner complaints about the loading zone being strictly for merchandise. from what I understand. And people are not merchandise, I believe, is how that was presented.
Well, the loading and unloading of merchandise and passengers are equivalent in our book. But, like I said to start with, we want to be neighborly to everyone, and if we can get an agreement to help out whoever this was that wasn't so happy with us being on Broad, and Rock Bottom is inviting us over there, I think it is worth a trial. And to answer your question, Commissioner Williams, just about everything we do is a trial. I mean, we can always change it. So, I mean, you can label it and you can say you want us to come back in 30 days or 90 days. We can, but we can always change and adjust.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I do want to say that, you know, I'm familiar with y'all's operations in Savannah and some other cities, and you do a really good job, and you're providing a good service for Nashville, and so is Gray Line for that matter. You know, it's good, and I didn't intend to sound antagonistic about that, because it is, and I think that I want to commend Rock Bottom too for agreeing to come up with and working with you on coming up with a solution there, and that's good.
Thank you.
So the way this normally works, Commissioner, is we approve it, someone doesn't like it, gets too crowded down there, they appeal it, and it comes back. But we pretty much have always, everything's appealable. You know, it seems everything can come back for appeal.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think
sure
it needs
how
to be
we said.
monitored.
I mean, Chip, y'all want to monitor that?
Sorry.
Y'all will monitor the.
Yeah, and we've been working with these guys in Gray Line from day one, and don't be surprised if you see this again in a month or two. We might find another location. We might be out in this same location, but yes, it's a dynamic area. It's changing tomorrow. It's changing today. You know, you're right in the middle of it. So, but for today, we want to try the spot by Rock Bottom, see how it works. The taxi guys are okay with it. They end their service at 6, and so it falls right into place for the taxis to come in at 6. And I think if okay with you, the commission, we'd like to give it a shot. That doesn't mean there won't be loading and unloading on Broadway of other freight, maybe even passengers. But with the agreement we have with these guys, we're going to try this spot over by Rock Bottom if it gets approved today.
I make a motion to authorize the trolley loading zone, Second Avenue, and to authorize the taxi loading zone and modify the hours from 6 p.m. to 8 a.m.
All right, we have a motion to have a second.
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, item number 2 under new business, authorize a taxi loading zone on 2nd Avenue.
We already approved that.
No, we haven't done
Wait a minute.
it. Yeah,
We-
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Old business. Assignment and agreement on second amendment to the parking agreement for the Stallman Building tenants using 175 spaces in the courthouse public square parking garage.
We have a request to defer this for 1 month.
Motion to defer 1 month.
I
Have-
second.
Have a first and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right.
Mr.
John?
Chairman, I'd like to, Mr. Macy has been the interim director of Public Works since last September. And I think the mayor announced today we have a new interim director, but I think I'd like to thank Mr. Macy for his work for Nashville over the last, 11 months. And I guess the good news is we'll continue to see you more often. Thank you.
Budget?
Make a motion to adjourn?
I second.
Have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed?